Welcome back to our channel. We have another cheating story to share. Before we start, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks. It's often said that life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. You think you know someone, you think you've built a life around trust, love, and mutual respect. But all of that can crumble in an instant. That's exactly what happened to me. I was in my early 30s, happily married to Sarah, the woman I had loved for over 6 years. We'd met in college, both young and naive, convinced we had it all figured out. Our first date was a simple dinner at a small Italian restaurant in the city, but something about her smile, the way she looked at me as though I was the only person in the room, felt magical. Over the years, we moved in together, built a life, a home, a shared routine, even a dog named Max. We were, what I thought, the picture of happiness. But one evening, everything changed. It started off like any other night. Sarah was out with her friends, celebrating a birthday at a local bar, while I stayed at home, scrolling through my phone, enjoying the quiet. But then, as if something were tugging at me, I noticed Sarah's phone sitting on the kitchen counter. It was unusual for her to leave it unattended, especially when she was out with her friends. I wasn't the type of guy to snoop through her things. Trust had always been the foundation of our relationship. But that night, I felt an undeniable pull, a feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. Without thinking, I grabbed her phone. And there it was. A text message that changed everything. "Can't wait to see you tonight. XOXO." It was from a name I didn't recognize. My heart dropped to my stomach as I read it over and over again. The message wasn't a harmless flirtation, it was intimate, filled with promises of something more. Something secret. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Was I overreacting? Maybe it was nothing, just a harmless text. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I had to know more. The moment Sarah walked through the door later that night, I was waiting for her. My heart was pounding, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I didn't know what I was going to say, or how I was going to say it, but I couldn't just let this go. She seemed surprised to see me sitting in the living room, her eyes flickering nervously as she set her purse down. I wasn't sure if she knew I had seen the message, but I could tell something was off. It was in the way she avoided my gaze, the way she fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. I didn't waste any time. I held up her phone, showing her the text message. "Sarah, who's this?" I asked, my voice calm but laced with an edge I couldn't hide. Her face went pale. I watched her swallow hard, her lips trembling slightly as she glanced at the phone. She took a step back, clearly caught off guard, but then she quickly composed herself. "It's nothing," she said, her voice too quick, too defensive. "Just a friend from work." "You're overreacting." "Don't lie to me," I snapped, my pulse racing. "I've never seen that number before. And this doesn't look like just a friend." Her eyes welled up with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. "It's not what you think, okay? It's really nothing. I swear, nothing happened." But I wasn't convinced. The way she tried to cover it up, the way she avoided answering my questions directly, only made my suspicions grow stronger. My gut told me that something much darker was happening behind my back. "I don't believe you, Sarah," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "Who is he? Tell me the truth." She hesitated, her face flushing with guilt. Finally, she broke. "His name is Evan. He's a coworker. It's just been one thing, one kiss. It didn't mean anything. I swear." I could feel my world crumbling. The woman I loved, the one I had trusted, had betrayed me. I didn't know how to process the words. My mind raced, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. "Just one kiss," I repeated, my voice hollow. "And you think that makes it okay?" She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm sorry. I messed up. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." I couldn't hold it in anymore. My emotions spilled over. I stood up and walked away, leaving her standing there in the living room, looking utterly defeated. The days that followed were filled with silence. Sarah tried to apologize, tried to explain herself, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. I was too hurt, too angry, too betrayed. Every time I looked at her, All I could see was the image of her with him, Evan, the man who had taken what was mine. I spent sleepless nights thinking about what to do next. Should I forgive her? Could I forgive her? I kept going over it in my mind, but all I kept coming back to was one thought: revenge. I wasn't proud of it. I knew it wasn't the healthy way to handle things, but the anger inside me burned like a fire that I couldn't control. I wanted her to feel the same pain I was feeling. I wanted to make her regret what she had done. If she thought she could betray me without consequences, then I would make her realize just how much she had messed up. I talked to Mark, a friend of mine who had gone through a similar experience in the past. Mark wasn't the type to give advice lightly, but when he heard my story, his face lit up with a kind of twisted excitement. "Man, you've got to get back at her. Show her that you're not someone she can walk all over," he said, his voice low and almost sinister. "Make her jealous. Make her question everything." At that moment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I decided to play the long game. If Sarah wanted to cheat on me, then I was going to show her how it felt to be betrayed. But I didn't want it to be obvious. I didn't want her to know that I was doing this on purpose. I wanted her to believe she was the one losing control. I began setting my plan in motion. I reached out to an attractive woman I knew from work, a colleague named Jessica. She was fun, confident, and completely unaware of the turmoil I was going through at home. I asked her to help me execute my plan, promising her that nothing would get out of hand. The idea was simple. I would start spending more time with Jessica, going out to lunch with her, having casual conversations, even sharing a few laughs. But I made sure that Sarah would notice. I made sure she would see the chemistry between me and Jessica, and most importantly, I made sure she would get jealous. Over the next few weeks, I kept up the charade. Sarah seemed to notice the changes. She began asking me questions, her voice tinged with suspicion. "What's going on with you and Jessica?" she asked one evening, her eyes narrow. "Nothing," I replied casually. "We're just friends." But I could see the doubt in her eyes, the way she clenched her fists, the way she stared at me as if trying to decode my every word. It was working. Sarah was feeling insecure, questioning the one thing she had always taken for granted, my loyalty. The tension between us grew. Sarah tried to confront me several times, accusing me of being distant, of not paying attention to her. She grew more agitated, more frantic, but I kept playing my role. I continued my friendship with Jessica, making sure Sarah saw us laughing together, exchanging private jokes. And with each passing day, I could see Sarah cracking. Her facade was slipping. She couldn't keep up the pretense of being the perfect wife. One evening, after I had returned from another lunch with Jessica, Sarah exploded. "I know what you're doing," she shouted, her voice trembling with fury. "You think you can make me jealous? You think you can hurt me like I hurt you?" I stood there, calm. "You don't like it, do you? The feeling of not knowing where I am, who I'm with, or what I'm doing. Does it remind you of something?" Her face turned pale, and for a moment, I thought she might break down. But then, her eyes narrowed, and she sneered. "You're pathetic. You really think this is going to fix anything? You're only hurting yourself." In that moment, I felt something shift. The anger, the betrayal, the bitterness, it all felt meaningless. The satisfaction I had expected from my revenge never came. Instead, I was left with a hollow emptiness. What had I really accomplished? I walked away from the situation, not because I didn't still love her, but because I realized that revenge wasn't the answer. It didn't fix anything. It didn't heal the wound. It only deepened it. In the end, Sarah and I did part ways. The trust was gone. But the lesson I learned was profound. Revenge might feel good for a fleeting moment, but it doesn't make you feel better in the long run. It only makes you feel worse. What I needed wasn't revenge, it was closure. And closure comes from letting go, not holding on to the past. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts.